Glad to have you back. This is Business Nigeria with Tolulope Ogunjobi. Now, in a historic move, President Bola Tinubu has launched Nigeria's participation in the preferential trade under the AfCFTA, that's the African Continental Free Trade Area, Guarded Trade Initiative in Lagos. Now, this landmark event marks a significant step forward in Nigeria's commitment to uniting the continent, I beg your pardon, under a shared prosperity. Recall Nigeria signed the AfCFTA agreement on July 7th, 2019, becoming the 34th AfCFTA state party. According to experts, Nigeria's preparedness for trading under the AfCFTA's preferential trade regime would immensely contribute to repositioning the continental market as a global trade market. For more on this, I'm being joined by the export doctor himself. He's the lead consultant, Chief Executive Officer of 3T Impex Consulting, Dr. Bamidele Ayemibo. Good afternoon. It's good to see you, Export Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Very well. Thank you so much for your time. Okay, let's get into this. And first, I think, make us understand what we mean by preferential trade under the AfCFTA GTI. All we know is that there is AfCFTA and Nigeria needs to trade in that market. What does this really mean?
All right, thank you very much. The reason why it's preferential trade is basically because not everybody will be able to, not everybody will be eligible for it. Some companies and some countries will be preferred over the other. In this case, African countries that have signed and ratified, and then companies that are able to meet the expectation of the preferential arrangement. In this case, you are looking at the rule of origin. There are rules guiding this kind of trade transaction. The rule of origin, basically defining the product that will qualify for duty-free under the African Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Okay, that is what it is, right?
Yes.
President Tinubu has inaugurated that today. So what does this mean for Nigeria? Because we've been talking about participation, taking advantage of the AfCFTA. Does this mean that we are now ready to grab the opportunities in this very important market?
Now, this is a guided trade initiative, GTI. Being guided trade means we are trying the protocol vis-a-vis Nigerian law, vis-a-vis other countries. We are shipping to, I think, Uganda, Egypt, Cameroon. Now, we're shipping to this country to be able to also test the regulation against their law. It's guided, it's being monitored to see it through by the AFS Secretariat from beginning to the end. Now, I would say we are partially ready because at the end of this shipment, a number of issues will be thrown up and this issue will be addressed so that when more and more people come on board, then we can begin to have a smoother trade transaction. But if you define the readiness in terms of Nigerian business being ready, I'm not sure a lot of Nigerian business are ready. That also explains the reason why majority of the if you look at the pictures I've seen from the businesses or the companies that are going to be doing shipment to Cameroon, to Uganda, to Kenya, to Egypt, they are the big organizations in Nigeria, the SME are not there. That's why I said we might not be fully ready. But the good news is that we started trading, which I think is commendable.
Which is commendable. You know, we had some shortcomings. We had some, let me say, identified challenges and shortfalls in implementing the AfCFTA in the first instance. And one of it is what the manufacturers talked about, Nigeria not becoming a dumping ground because of our population. Export doctor, I see you nodding as I'm saying this. But you know that that is true because we have that population. How well do you think our manufacturers are ready to manage this as we move on?
No, you know, Nigeria becoming a dumping ground will be either private sector is not doing their own monitoring and job and the government not doing its bit. This is an agreement. The agreement is not left open. The agreement have different safeguards to protect every business that want to come on board and want to come on board. Number one, we have the tariff concession schedule that says that 90% of product will be liberalized, fully liberalized. whereas about 7% will be liberalized over time, and 3% will not be liberalized. There will still be tariff on them. Now, we also have the rule of origin, meaning you can't just ship to any country. If you are shipping to a country, you have to have met some criteria. So a Chinese cannot ship into Nigeria claiming that it's shipping under AfCFTA. It must have met some criteria, meaning it must have set up somewhere in Africa to be able to achieve that, creating jobs in that part of Africa. It's also possible for there's also a dispute resolution mechanism. So there are a number of safeguards in this arrangement or in this agreement to ensure that at the end of the day, we don't become a dumping ground. As to the readiness of manufacturer, a lot of manufacturers will have to do a number of things about the way they are sourcing their product, because if you are sourcing your raw material 100% from outside of Africa, you will not be able to trade under AfCFTA in Africa, because the objective is to integrate trade in Africa, to have intracontinental value chain, meaning you have to be sourcing your raw materials from Africa, or at least do some level of presence in Africa for you to be able to trade duty-free on the African continent.
Let's take this a step further. What would be the role of the private sector in driving this? Because we see that when Mr. Olusegun Awolowo came up with his write-up ahead of this event, he talked about the role of the private sector.
The private sector must be ready. You know, I was on another event on talking about this today, and I was talking about the fact that ETLS, ECOWAS Trade Relations Scheme, which is a similar agreement only within the West African sub-region, have been on for more than 30 years, and a number of Nigerian companies have not taken advantage of it for a number of reasons, majority of which is awareness. And this is not peculiar to Africa. If you go to Asia, you go to Europe, you go to North America, wherever you have free trade agreement, it has not been 100% utilization. A number of people have not been able to use it for a number of reasons. One of them is information. Availability of information on how to take advantage of it. More importantly is awareness. We must first be aware as a business to be able to now take advantage of the opportunity available under the AfCFTA. So if we don't take care of the issue of awareness, we will be able to take advantage of it. If you think about the issue of awareness, then we must make information available. For me now, if I want to ship, I should be able to have information in what do I now need to do, how do I apply, how do I go about the process from beginning to the end. That is what private sector must demand from the National Action Committee on the AfCFTA, or which Sheikh Olusegun is heading, to be able to make the information available for everyone on their website, so people will know how do I go about this process to be able to take advantage of it. And then we need to ask seek government for support, because now shipping within Africa is challenging. A number of vessels will have to go to Europe before coming back. So we need to solve there's something that Nexim Bank is doing in connection with private sector to ensure that we can ship within West Africa and Central Africa, and they are doing some dredging already along the lower Niger River. The idea is to ensure that we also take care of this infrastructural deficit, particularly within the sub-region, to ensure that we can ship within the region so that we won't be spending 21 days for a journey that is less than 1 week.
Brilliant stuff. Dr. Ayemibo, let's now look at issues of currency. We've talked about this before, thinking maybe African continents could come together, maybe the same currency and unified currency. And also, some countries will still need visas to go in. How do we liberalize, open up trade? What sort of conversation are you expecting now that would help facilitate trade more at this time? Government needs to open up. And how do we open up in a way that we don't get our fingers burnt?
The goal is to get towards single currency. If you look at the theory of economic integration, you move from the free trade agreement, you move to custom union, you move to common market and economic union, where you now have a single currency. That's the goal. Ultimate goal is to have a single currency. It's a journey. We don't hope to get there in a day. We have started with the free trade agreement. You talk about movement of goods, a movement of labor. One of the agreements that was signed when AfCFTA was launched, one of the agreements signed is actually include movement of labor. Not every African country have signed that, so we definitely need to open up. If indeed we want to trade and want one united Africa, I shouldn't be having visa to go to the 54 African countries that have signed and 40 that have ratified. I should be able to pick up my passport and travel because I'm going to trade or I'm going to do business to be able to facilitate that. That is a conversation we need to have the agreement is already on. Not many countries have signed. Maybe advocates have to continue going for countries to see reason why they have to sign this agreement. Now, payment, I know you mentioned currency, and the reason is around payment. The payment issue to a large extent have been sorted with the Pan-African payment and settlement system that have already been put in place, championed by AfCFTA, of which the CBN Central Bank, the governor of Nigeria Central Bank was the chairman of that committee of Central Bank in Africa. And a number of African countries have also already tested it. Nigeria, a number of banks in Nigeria are already using it and tested it. And to be able to ship to South Africa, to Kenya, to Uganda, and I will be paid in Naira. And if I'm also importing goods from those countries, I can pay in Naira. And that's a good news for importers. Importers who can source their product efficiently in other states or other countries in Africa might need to begin to look at this, because then they won't have to be looking for forex to be able to fund the importation of raw material that they so desperately need, but rather looking to pay in Naira, and those other countries can get it in their local currency.
Dr. Ayemibo, it brings me back again to the time where Nigerians exported some beans and they were rejected. I think some yam too. Yes, no, really. And you know, these things, we need to bring them to the fore and know how we could do things right, and we don't have such experience anymore. And you know, every time I have you on the show, I always like to talk around standards, because it's very important. I want to see a situation whereby Nigerian goods stand on the same shelf with any good produced in America or anywhere, even across not even just within the continent. So what are we doing? What are the agencies? One of it is the NEPC, and of course, what are they doing? Making sure that we meet necessary standards at this time.
You know, that's a very, very important question, because in as much as we want to trade, it's also important, extremely, extremely important, that we meet the standard expected of the product that will be shipped under AfCFTA. You know, NAFDAC has been championing this. I must commend the effort NAFDAC is making. NAFDAC is trying to ensure this become a thing of the past. NAFDAC released a particular data recently of rejected goods. Now, what's the new thing, the good thing about these goods is majority of them are commodities. Sesame seed was top on the list, followed by beans, followed by melon, followed by granite, followed by ginger, followed by smoked fish. Now, when you look at the products that are largely rejected on the list, according to NAFDAC, majority of them are commodities. I don't see Nigeria making a lot of money from commodity export within Africa. And the reason is simple. Majority of African countries, a number of them are even worse than Nigeria in terms of production capacity. Meaning, a number of them are importing value-added goods. What Nigeria will export under AfCFTA that will make Nigeria money, that will even trade under AfCFTA, are going to be value-added goods. As a matter of fact, it's going to be more of fast-moving consumer goods and manufactured goods in general. Now, what that means is that we will be able to a large extent, reduce the issue of quality if we focus on value add. Now, talking about quality issue affecting us, with what NAFDAC is doing right now, if the activity of NAFDAC or the process NAFDAC is put in place is enforced, I see a situation in which we might begin to see a decline in the level of rejection of bad quality good living in Nigeria. Because the idea is, now you won't be able to export bad quality good again, because they are going to be tested and you're going to see the result. If that is the situation, if I buy bad quality goods and then I could not ship it out, I won't go and buy from that farmer again or from that producer again. I will look for someone that will be able to produce good quality, meaning the farmer also will become more conscious of quality in the production of his crops. I see a situation in which, if this is followed through, we might be able to begin to see significant reduction in the level of rejection of commodities from Nigeria. But for AfCFTA, we will not be able to trade a lot in commodities. Maybe we can do crude, but not in maybe cocoa or cashew. But more importantly, rather, we will have to be trading value-added manufactured goods, particularly fast-moving consumer goods on the African continent.
Finally, where do you see us moving? Let's assume it's a ladder for the AfCFTA. Where are we in the short to medium term, considering what has been done today?
I hope the National Action Committee on the AfCFTA with NEPC and Federal Ministry of Trade will keep up this tempo. And you people in the media also bring it to fore like you are doing right now, so that it can become a conversation we have from time to time, such that at the end of the day, the awareness of the business community is increased about this, and it doesn't become, we have this ceremony, the president comes to talk about it, the ministers are there talking about it, and then we don't hear anything about it again. It should be on the front burner. The Ministry of Trade, NEPC, National Action Committee need to do something about increasing the awareness. You know the way the awareness we have during presidential election, you know the front runner, everybody know who are those contesting because of the amount of money spent on the media. That's what I expect the ministry and department and agencies of government to begin to do to increase awareness and then educate Nigeria how to key into AfCFTA, how to get the certificate of origin that enable them to trade duty-free on the African continent.
I'm lead consultant, CEO, 3T Impex Consulting, expert doctor, Dr. Bamidele Ayemibo. Thank you so much. It's always nice having you join Business Nigeria.
Thank you for having me, and bye-bye.
You see the energy there. He's an expert doctor.